Thanks everyone for coming to today. This is our second live Q&A. As I mentioned last week, if you were here, we just change up the format a bit. So rather than like a 15-minute presentation, we're doing three questions, and we'll go through them in sort of 5 minutes each or so. The first question we got today is about how to ask for a case study. The second question is about doing some DIY SEO, so how to get found on Google. And thirdly, the question is about asking someone to become a referral partner. So the first question is, JM asks, we've just wrapped up a fascinating dispute in the software space. The client's delighted, and I'd love to showcase this on our website, but I'm not sure how to ask without seeming pushy. What's the best way to approach this? So I think the first thing is about striking while the iron's hot. So you want to be able to ask that as quickly as possible. Ask the person for the case study as quickly as possible. But what I wanted to cover to answer this question was, well, firstly, how do you approach the person? What are you going to ask for? And I think most importantly, how are you going to frame the request? So I think if we go to the first part, which is how to approach it, having done a lot of case studies for clients myself, I think the first thing is I would suggest changing your mindset around it. Don't think of it like the client's doing you a favor. Think of it like this is something you're offering to them to help them showcase their success. When making the request, also think about whether it's an email or a phone call. My recommendation with something like this is always to go a phone call, but don't blindside the client. Give them a little bit of a heads up, book in a call with them, and then run them through what we're about to talk about. So with a case study, there's kind of lots of ways you can go about it, but in terms of what you could do is I think about it in like 4 tiers. So the first tier is you'd like to publish a feature piece on the website on the case. I think that's the most ambitious one. If you really want to go extreme, you could even ask for a video case study. The second would be a similar type of thing, but you're going to constrain it to just your BD materials. So doing a written case study and something that you're going to put in your proposals or your capability statements. The third tier, I would say, is having like just a sentence or a bullet point on your profile page on your website. So could just be give a very sort of brief example or an overview of what the case was about. And then lastly, it's the same concept, but you're doing it in a way where it's a bit more vague. So you're just referencing it as, well, we've worked on successful types of disputes for software companies, and the type being whatever the dispute was about. We then move to how to frame it. As I said, I think this is the most important part of making it safe, like making it safe for them to agree to do the case study. And I would ask yourself firstly is, if this case study was public, does it make them look good? Like, would they want to share this with their network? So an example of like a case that might, especially in a dispute, a case study that might work well and people may want to share it with their network would be, say, a win against a bigger competitor or the government. It's probably not going to be appropriate, say, if it's like a dispute but where you're the employer and you've won a case against an employee. That can always kind of come off a little bit harsh to then go write a case study about it. But in my experience, most clients are quite happy to talk about wins when they're sort of a bit more broader or against like say a bigger competitor or a public service or something like that, especially if the case is in the public realm anyway. When framing it to the client, I'd also say it's absolutely fine if they want to anonymize it. So if they're not comfortable putting their name on it, offer that they can do that anonymously. If you have a previous case study to show them that so they can kind of get a feel of what it's going to be like when they get the first draft, which brings me to probably the most important part when asking to do is, I think this is a sort of a must-have, and that's that they get full review rights. So for everything that's going to be published, they get to review it and approve it before it goes out. That goes for the case study itself, any social media promotion, email marketing, whatever you might be doing, they get to approve all of them. Now, they might say, don't need to. That's fine. That's their choice, but that's what you need to offer. And I think lastly, I'd also think about how much time is it going to take from their side? So is this something that you can interview them in, say, 15, 30 minutes? I think you want to be upfront about, how long it's going to take them. So in summary, don't think about it as being pushy or intruding. Reframe it so it makes them look fantastic. Tell them they won't have to do a lot. And of course, that they'll have final approval on anything before it goes public. Beck runs a family law firm in Wellington, New Zealand, and she's asked, just opened my family law practice after 12 years at a mid-tier firm. Money's tight, but I know our website needs help with SEO. Any DIY tips that actually work? Well, first, congrats on starting the firm. It's always a fun challenge. My first tip would be go to Google, type in the word site, S-I-T-E, and a colon, and then your domain name. Then look at whatever the search results are. So you should see basically every page on your website as a listing in the Google search. If there's something amiss there, like something's missing or something's where it shouldn't be, that's the first thing you need to get fixed because it's going to basically impact everything else you do. So you're going to need probably your web developer to fix that, probably. But that's the first thing, because if you don't have that right, everything else isn't going to matter. Once you've got that right, something you need to have is a page for every search term that you want to be found for. So you need to have an individual page. So as an example, you want to get found for your firm's name. So that's going to be your homepage. You want to be found for your own name as well. So someone's searching for your name. You need to have a page for your profile. It can't be under the about page. It can't be under just a team listing with multiple lawyers. You need to have your own page. And the reason is when someone types into Google your name, well, it gives Google the opportunity to actually index that page. It also makes it easy for the user to find you on the website. Then for every area of expertise, you want to have a page for it as well. So if you're offering family law, you might have a page for child support or spousal maintenance. You might even go sort of more niche and have answers to, say, specific questions like this is an actual example I've heard from a family lawyer. Who gets the Qantas frequent flyer points in a separation? Who gets the dog in a separation? And obviously there's going to be lots of nuances around that, but if you were looking for someone's looking for that online, you need to have a page for something that's specific. Once you've got all your pages up, the next thing to do is focus on what I call SEO essentials. So there's just a few things that you need to have done on your website that are going to really help Google rank your firm. So I'm going to use Beck, and I've anonymized the surname to Smith and came up with a fictional law firm, XYZ Lawyers. You want to get these three things right. And the first is the URL. You'll see here. So that's the address. In the address bar, you'll see it. You want to have the full name in the URL. So that's the first thing. If it has a number 2 in it, or it's got a typo in it, the number 2 being like you've had 2 attempts at publishing this page, you want to clean all those things up so they're nice and neat. So that they match the keyword there. Then you have the page title, and the page title needs to have the keyword in it as well. So in this instance, the keyword's Becksmith. So you want to kind of help Google and you want to help the user. So you wouldn't just have Becksmith, which is what most websites will default to. It'll just be the name of the page. It'll just say Becksmith. But you want to say Becksmith, family lawyer at the law firm. And if you've got space to fit it in, probably the location. So you'd want to sort of write it like that and make sure you have enough information there that when people are looking for you, they know they're in the right spot. And finally on this, you want to have a meta description. And the meta description doesn't need to have keywords. It's basically just a little bit of an intro into what the page is going to be about. So it's almost like a teaser, or it can just be like a very brief overview of, in this instance, your profile. So you don't need to have keywords in that. You then want to look for, like when you've got your entire sort of site done, you want to look for opportunities where you can link between pages. So it's just literally grabbing a word, say in an article you might have that says child support. You might highlight that word and then link to the child support page. Pretty simple thing to do. The other thing that will really help your SEO optimization, very easy to do, is set up your Google My Business profile page. That will really help with local search. The next thing you do there is make sure your contact details are consistent between the profile and the website. If they're not, fix that. But once you've got that ready to go, the next thing is just get as many reviews as you can. And that'll help rank for local searches, so people searching in your local city. And then finally, ask people for links. So links from other websites to your website really help in improving your ranking. So it can be friends or referrers or associations or directories, whatever it might be, just ask for those links. So to wrap that up, you want to make sure you have a page for every keyword that you want to rank for. When you're adding the page to your site, just spend that extra sort of couple of minutes crafting up the page title, the meta description, checking the URL. Do your internal linking. So you're writing an article, can you link it to another page on your website? And just then keep asking for reviews and links. Okay, question 3 for today. Question comes from David, who's a partner at a commercial and property firm in Melbourne. There's an accounting firm in my building. I can see from their LinkedIn page that they're doing lots of property development work. I often bump into one of their partners at the coffee shop downstairs and want to suggest a referral relationship. And I'm not sure what to say. How do I go about breaking the ice? This is a really common question. I think most of this stems from confidence. So to bring confidence into the way you're going to approach, I think it's about reframing this opportunity to go up to this person and ask them about a referral relationship. So to reframe that, if you go into the conversation with nothing to offer and you're asking for their help, it's always going to feel hard and awkward. I don't think there's like any instance where that's going to be comfortable unless you're an extreme extrovert. I'd also say, and this is specific to accountants, but I've heard this from accountants and they're sick and tired of lawyers just coming to them and asking for referrals. They don't see what the value is in it for them. I think it's sort of like the GP in the medical profession. All the surgeons want, all the specialists all want referrals, but you know, what's in it for them? So I think you need to go into this with, well, what can you offer them first? So if we think about the conversation, don't do this. Hi, accountant. I saw on your firm's LinkedIn page that you do a lot of property development work. Do any of them ever ask for any introductions to lawyers? If so, I'd love to catch up for a coffee. So it's pretty sort of selfish. It's kind of all about you. So I would say here's two options that might help. Hi accountant, and you obviously use their name. I saw on your firm's LinkedIn page that you do a lot of work with property developers. And here's the kicker, what you say is, so do we. So by saying so do we, you're implying that there's this potential for reciprocity so that you could introduce them to your clients. So what this means is now that you and the accountant are playing the same game. You're just playing in different positions. And that person is far more likely to ask for that coffee, far more likely to agree to that coffee. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they said, I'm free now, and you end up having the coffee straight after. So think about that. If you do have property development clients, that might be a way to approach it. But if you don't, and it's sort of an area you're just kind of breaking into, another offer you might make, or how to kind of approach this, would be, hi accountant, I saw on your firm's LinkedIn page that you do a lot of work with property developers. I've got something to ask you. My team and I are planning a seminar for property developers on the new rezoning, like amendments that the council's doing. And as part of that session, we're hoping to have a speaker on, say, the tax implications of these changes. So you're kind of inventing this thing, and it could be legitimately that you are going to plan this webinar, but what it's implying is you're going to do all the work and you're asking them to basically contribute and get in front of your participants. I'd also follow that up with, well, would you or one of your associates be interested in helping out? And that way you're not kind of like making them work for it as well. They can palm it off to someone in their team as well. So I think the first thing is make it really easy for the accountant to say yes. There's a reason for them to say yes. They can delegate the work, and just by doing that, you're now on their radar. I think the key to all of this when asking someone for a referral relationship is about like extending that olive branch first. May not be that you can introduce your client, like you can't introduce clients to the firm. That's not always possible. Like often the relationship doesn't go that way, but there is always other ways you can reciprocate. And I think you need to get creative about what those ways might be. One of the most effective ways of helping out accountants I've seen, for lawyers just more broadly, is just offering them ad hoc advice when they need it. So instead of them having to like formally introduce you to introduce their client to a lawyer, is for really small questions, you're available to answer questions to the accountant. Obviously, if it needs written advice, well, then it becomes an engagement. But just giving them that kind of ad hoc support is a really like easy and valuable way of offering that kind of reciprocity. I hope that was helpful. That's the 3 questions today.